I saw her face in the mirror of my childhood bedroom, except it wasn't my mirror anymore. It was the one in my fiancé's condo, and Mom had been dead for 3 years. 7 days before I was supposed to marry Brandon, I woke up at 3 a.m., my heart slamming against my ribs, and I could still feel her hand on my shoulder. She didn't say anything. She never did in dreams. But her eyes, God, her eyes were screaming at me about something. About Brandon. About the wedding. About a lie so big it could swallow our entire future whole. I didn't tell anyone about the dream. Not yet. Not until I found the first text message. Let me back up. Let me tell you about the good life first. Because you need to understand what I'm about to lose. My name is Ashley Miller, and 3 months ago, I was living the kind of life that makes your Instagram followers jealous. I just turned 32. I had a corner office at a marketing firm downtown. Senior creative director, $95,000 salary plus bonuses. My fiancé Brandon was a financial advisor, tall, handsome in that forgettable catalog model way, with a trust fund that meant we never had to stress about money. We'd bought a condo together in Arlington, Virginia, one of those new buildings with the rooftop pool and the gym that smells like desperation and money. $420,000. We split it 50-50, which felt modern and fair. My mom had died of breast cancer in 2021. Fast. One diagnosis on a Tuesday, gone by November. She was 58. I still called her number sometimes, just to hear her voicemail greeting, which probably sounds pathetic. But I don't care. She was my person. My dad checked out emotionally after she died. He lives in Scottsdale now with someone named Brenda, who posts a lot of yoga photos. So I didn't have much family left. Just me, my brother Marcus in Seattle, and Brandon, who had become my entire emotional infrastructure. Brandon proposed last September at the Smithsonian, on one knee, with a 1.8-carat diamond that cost more than my first car. I said yes. Of course I said yes. He was attentive. He texted me funny videos of cats falling off furniture. He remembered my coffee order: oat milk latte, 1 pump of vanilla, extra shot. He'd bring me flowers on Wednesdays for no reason. Just because I love you, he'd say, and I'd believe it completely. We set the wedding date for June 22nd. The church was booked. The caterer was confirmed. Surf and turf. $85 per person. My dress hung in a garment bag in the guest bedroom. Ivory silk with hand-beaded lace, $4,000 that I'd saved up over 2 years. My bridesmaids were fitted. My hairstylist had practiced the updo 3 times. Everything was locked in. My best friend Jennifer threw me a bachelorette party 2 weeks before the wedding. We went to this wine bar in Clarendon, and I wore a white dress with "Bride" written across the chest in rhinestones. Jennifer kept buying rounds of Prosecco, and my other bridesmaids, Sarah, Katie, and Melissa, kept making toasts about how lucky Brandon was, how I was the most loyal friend, how I deserved everything good in life. It was the kind of night where you feel seen and celebrated and completely certain that your life is unfolding exactly as it should. Brandon wasn't there. He had a client dinner in Bethesda. He texted me at 11 p.m. "Have fun, babe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do." I laughed and showed the text to Jennifer. She rolled her eyes but smiled. The dream came 7 nights before the wedding. I remember waking up and thinking, that was so vivid, so specific. Not like a normal dream where things blur and shift. Every detail was crystalline. The mirror, her face, her hand. The feeling of her urgency, like she was trying to download something directly into my brain. I got up at 3:30 a.m. and made tea. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at Brandon sleeping, his face peaceful and neutral as a hospital patient. I thought about calling Marcus, but it was too early in Seattle. I thought about texting Jennifer, but she'd been drinking, and I didn't want to be that girl. Instead, I did what I always do when something feels wrong. I checked Brandon's phone. This wasn't unusual. We had nothing to hide from each other. He left his phone on the nightstand. The passcode was 0622, our wedding date. I woke it up, scrolled through his text messages. Nothing. His email inbox looked normal. His calendar showed the usual meetings, the rehearsal dinner on Friday, the ceremony on Saturday at 4 p.m. But something was whispering at me. That dream. Mom's face. I opened his Photos app and scrolled back. Vacation photos from last month in Cancun, screenshots of funny tweets, a picture of us at a charity gala, both of us smiling, his hand on the small of my back. Then I found the hidden folder. Don't ask me why I thought to look for one. I don't know. Intuition, maternal haunting, luck, whatever you want to call it. It was buried 3 folders deep, password protected. I tried the obvious ones. 0622, his birthday, our anniversary, nothing. I put the phone back. I didn't sleep. I lay next to Brandon and listened to him breathing and felt something inside me start to fracture, hairline thin, the kind of crack you don't notice until it spreads. The next morning, he kissed me goodbye like always. See you tonight, babe. Going to be a late one at the office. He smelled like his cologne and his own particular Brandonness, and I wanted to grab his collar and demand to know what was in that folder. I didn't. I smiled and waved. The moment his car pulled out of the underground garage, I texted Jennifer. Can you come over right now? Something's wrong. Jennifer arrived in 20 minutes. She still had yesterday's makeup smudged under her eyes, and she was wearing Brandon's old Georgetown hoodie that I'd loaned her months ago. She didn't even ask questions, just walked into the condo, saw my face, and said, "Okay, what happened? Are you canceling the wedding?" "I don't know," I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Maybe. I need to show you something." We sat on the kitchen island, the expensive marble one Brandon had insisted on, $15,000, and I walked her through it. The dream, Mom's face, the hidden folder, the passcode that didn't work. Jennifer listened without interrupting. She was still drinking her coffee from the drive over, some expensive blend from the place near her apartment in Ballston. When I finished, she set the mug down carefully, like if she moved too fast, I'd shatter. "Okay," she said. "Okay. So you tried the obvious passwords?" "Everything." "And you haven't asked him about it?" "How do I ask him that?" "Hey, Brandon, what's in the secret folder on your phone?" "That's insane." "It's less insane than marrying someone with a secret folder," Jennifer said. She was right, of course. That was the thing about Jennifer. She was always right in this infuriating, calm way that made you want to both hug her and throw something at her. I pulled up my own phone and opened my banking app. Our joint account showed the usual balance, $42,000. Our wedding fund, untouched. Everything normal. "What if it's nothing?" I said. "What if he just has, like, embarrassing photos or something? What if I'm being insane?" "You're not being insane," Jennifer said. "Your dead mother warned you in a dream, and you found a secret folder. That's not insane. That's a sign." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe Mom was still watching out for me from wherever she was, but I also wanted to believe that the man I was about to marry wasn't hiding something so serious he needed to password protect it 3 folders deep. "I'm going to try to break in," I said. "How?" "I don't know. He has a laptop in the study. Maybe I can—" "Ashley." Jennifer grabbed my hand. "That's not smart. That's going to make you look crazy if he finds out." "I'm already crazy. I broke into his phone at 3 in the morning. You have the passcode. That's different." But I wasn't thinking clearly. I went into the study anyway, Jennifer following behind me, like she was afraid I'd hurt myself. Brandon's laptop was on the desk, closed. MacBook Pro, the expensive one he'd bought last year. I opened it. Password protected, naturally. I tried our wedding date, nothing. I tried his birthday, nothing. I tried his mother's name, Karen, and his father's name, Richard, nothing. "This is insane," Jennifer said. "You're going to break something, or he's going to come home and find you." The front door opened. Both of us froze. It was 10:47 a.m. Brandon didn't get home until at least 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. His footsteps echoed through the hallway, and my entire body went cold. "Ash? You home?" His voice, casual and normal, like nothing was wrong, Like he didn't have secrets. Jennifer grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the study. I closed the laptop quietly, my hands shaking so badly I could barely manage it. Brandon appeared in the kitchen doorway. He was wearing his work clothes, navy suit, the tie I'd bought him for Christmas. But his hair was messier than usual, like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked at me, then at Jennifer, then back at me. "Hey," he said, "why aren't you at work?" I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. "She's not feeling well," Jennifer said smoothly. "I came over to check on her. We're thinking she might be getting the flu or something." Brandon set his briefcase down. He walked over and kissed my forehead, and I flinched. I actually flinched, and I could feel him notice it. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine," I lied. "Just tired?" "You should rest. I just came home to grab some files. I have a client meeting in Bethesda again. I'll be out late." He kissed the top of my head again, and I could smell his cologne, the same cologne he always wore, and something underneath it. Something wrong. After he left, Jennifer and I sat in silence for 5 full minutes. "Cologne," I finally said. "What?" "He smells different. Not like himself. Like he's wearing someone else's perfume under his cologne." Jennifer's face went pale. "Ashley." "No." I held up my hand. Don't say it. Don't make this real." But it was already real. I was already falling, already losing altitude, and there was nothing below me but empty air and the knowledge that 7 days from now, I was supposed to promise the rest of my life to a man I didn't know. I called the phone number that night, the one from the hidden folder. I'd written it down before Jennifer left. A woman answered on the second ring. "Hello?" Her voice was young, maybe mid-20s. I hung up immediately and threw up in the bathroom sink. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Brandon, listening to him snore, feeling like I was lying next to a stranger wearing a familiar face. The phone number kept running through my head on a loop. The woman's voice. Young, shocked. The way I'd hung up like a coward. By morning, I'd made a decision. I was going to hire a private investigator. I know how that sounds. I know it sounds like something a character in a bad TV show does when she's lost her mind. But I wasn't lost. I was finding my way toward something true, even if the truth was going to destroy everything. Jennifer helped me find someone. Her cousin's ex-husband had used an investigator during their divorce. Not pretty, but efficient. The guy's name was Tom Brenner, and he ran his operation out of a strip mall in Falls Church, sandwiched between a tax preparation place and a vape shop. I drove there alone on Wednesday morning, telling Brandon I was going to an emergency work meeting. The lie came so easily now. Tom was in his 50s, with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his tie. His office smelled like old papers and resignation. I sat across from him and told him everything. The hidden folder, the phone number, the way Brandon smelled different, the dream about my dead mother. I didn't mention the dream, actually. That sounded insane. I stuck to facts. "How much?" I asked. 2,000 retainer, 200 an hour after that. Depending on what we find, could be another 2-3 grand. I can have preliminary intel by Friday. $2,000. That was real money, even for us. That was a choice I was making. I pulled out my credit card, not the joint account, my own card, the one I'd kept separate since before I met Brandon, and authorized the charge. "What's his name?" Tom asked. "Brandon Whitmore. He's a financial advisor at Mercer and Associates in Arlington." Tom's pen stopped moving. He looked up at me. "Brandon Whitmore?" he said. My stomach dropped. "You know him?" "Maybe." "Describe him?" I did. Tall, dark hair, trust fund, Georgetown education, the kind of handsome that doesn't require effort. Tom closed his notebook slowly. "Yeah, I know the name. I did some work for a woman about 4 months ago. She was trying to figure out if her boyfriend was cheating. Boyfriend worked in finance. Tall guy, Georgetown guy. Paid her off to drop the investigation before I could finish." The room tilted. "What was her name?" I whispered. "I can't tell you that. Client confidentiality. But I can tell you she was young. maybe 26, 27, and she was pregnant. I stood up. I actually stood up and walked to the window because I couldn't breathe sitting down. There was a subway across the street. A woman was ordering a sandwich like the world wasn't ending. Find out everything, I told him. I don't care what it costs. By Thursday night, Tom had sent me a folder, 50 pages of photographs, financial records, and a timeline that made me want to die. Brandon had been seeing someone named Kayla Chen for 8 months. They'd met at a gym in D.C. They'd been to hotels in Maryland, Delaware, even down to a resort in Virginia Beach. There were photographs of them kissing in a parking garage, his hand on her waist, her hand on his face. There were credit card charges for hotel rooms, restaurants, flowers, hundreds of dollars a week, money that came from a separate account I didn't even know he had. And the pregnancy test. Tom had found a receipt in Kayla's trash. Literal trash, he'd gone through her garbage. Dated 6 weeks ago. Positive. My baby was 5 days away from being born into a marriage with a man who had another woman pregnant in an apartment in Ballston. I read through the folder 3 times. Each time I read it, I died a little bit more. Each time, I thought about the dress hanging in the guest bedroom. Ivory silk, hand-beaded lace, $4,000. Each time, I thought about my mother's face in the mirror. She'd known. Somehow, from wherever she was, she'd known. I didn't confront him that night. I didn't do anything. I called Jennifer, and she came over immediately, abandoning her boyfriend mid-dinner. We sat on the kitchen island, the expensive marble island, and I showed her the photographs. She went very still. She stared at the picture of Brandon and Kayla kissing, her hand on his chest, his eyes closed like he was in love. "Oh my God," Jennifer whispered. "Oh my God, Ash! What do I do?" I asked, and I sounded like a child. I sounded like the version of me that existed before Tuesday, before the dream, before I learned that the man I was about to marry had an entire other life. "You cancel the wedding," Jennifer said flatly. "You cancel it today. It's tomorrow?" "Exactly. You call everyone, the church, the caterer, the florist. You send a message to the bridesmaids. You tell them it's off. How do I explain it?" "You don't. Not yet. You say something came up. You say there's been a family emergency. You buy yourself time. The invitations went out to 300 people, Jen. 300 people have already RSVP'd. The hotel blocks are booked. My dad is flying in from Scottsdale. My dad..." I couldn't finish. My father, who'd already lost my mother, who was going to lose this too. "I know," Jennifer said, and she grabbed my hand. "I know, but you can't marry him. You can't stand in front of 300 people and promise forever to a man who's having a baby with someone else." She was right. Of course she was right. Jennifer was always right. I did it at 11 p.m. I called the church and told them there was an emergency. I called the caterer and said I needed to postpone. I called the florist. I texted my bridesmaids. I sent an email to my extended family. I didn't explain. I just said, "The wedding is postponed. I will be in touch with more information soon." Then I called my dad. He answered on the 3rd ring, and I could hear Brenda in the background, some yoga documentary playing on the TV. "Hey, Ash, everything okay? It's pretty late." I told him. I told him everything. About the dream, about the hidden folder, about Tom Brenner, and the photographs, and the woman named Kayla who was pregnant with my fiancé's child. He didn't say anything for a long moment. "I'm coming to Arlington," he finally said. "I'll be there tomorrow morning." "Dad, you don't have to..." "I'm coming," he said. And for the first time since my mother died, I heard something in his voice that sounded like the dad I'd known before grief swallowed him whole. Brandon came home at 10 a.m. Friday morning, confused about why he was seeing all these cancellation emails on his phone. He walked into the condo and found me sitting on the couch with my father, the folder of photographs on the coffee table, spread out like tarot cards that had all turned up death. "What the hell is this?" he said, and his voice was high and panicked. "Sit down," I told him. No, I'm not sitting down." "What is this?" Ashley, what the fuck? Sit. Down. He looked at my father. My father, who was 6'2" and had the expression of a man who had nothing left to lose because he'd already lost everything that mattered. He sat down. I picked up the photograph of him and Kayla kissing. I held it up so he could see it clearly. Kayla Chen, I said, and my voice was steady now, which surprised me. 8 months. She's pregnant. She's pregnant, and you asked me to marry you while you were fucking her. His face went white. Actually white, like all the blood had drained out. Ashley, I can explain. You can explain? I laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. You can explain that you have another woman pregnant? You can explain the secret bank account, the hotel rooms, the flowers? What exactly can you explain, Brandon? It was a mistake. She meant nothing. You're the one I want. You're the one I love. My father stood up. He actually stood up and pointed at the door. Get out, he said. Get out of this apartment right now, or I will call the police. This is my apartment, Brandon said. I live here. Not anymore, I said. You're off the mortgage. I'm calling a lawyer today and having you removed as a co-owner. You have until tonight to pack a bag and get out. Anything you leave behind, I'm throwing it away. It took him 3 hours. He moved through the apartment like a ghost, throwing things into a suitcase, his hands shaking. I watched him from the kitchen, my father beside me. Brandon didn't try to explain again. He didn't try to convince me, he just packed. At the door, he turned back. I was going to tell you, he said. After the wedding, I was going to tell you, and we were going to figure it out. Get out, I said. He left. My father and I stood in the silent apartment, and he put his arm around me, and I finally cried. I cried for the dress in the guest bedroom. I cried for the 300 people who'd been invited to a wedding that would never happen. I cried for the life I thought I was going to have. I cried for my mother, who'd tried to save me from beyond the grave. Thank you, I told my father. Your mother would have done worse, he said. She would have hunted him down. The next morning, I called Marcus in Seattle and told him the wedding was off. I called Jennifer and we made a plan. I called a divorce attorney. Yes, we had to do the whole thing, even without being married, because of the condo and the joint accounts. It cost me $8,000, but Brandon ended up paying for half of it as part of the settlement. He also agreed to sign over his share of the condo to me. I refinanced the mortgage in my own name. The legal battle took 3 months. Brandon tried to claim he had rights to some of our shared assets, tried to argue that his relationship with Kayla was recent and shouldn't affect our separation agreement. His lawyer was a shark named David Rothstein, who worked out of a K Street office and billed by the minute. My lawyer, Patricia Morrison, was scarier. She was 62, had been through 3 divorces herself, and had the kind of calm certainty that made opposing counsel nervous. She had me hire a forensic accountant, who found that Brandon had been embezzling small amounts from his clients' accounts to pay for his other life. Not huge amounts, 500 here, 1,000 there, but enough to constitute fraud. Patricia used that information to leverage the settlement. Brandon agreed to sign the condo over to me completely, to pay me back the $15,000 for the wedding costs, and to agree to a confidentiality clause that prevented him from discussing the circumstances of our separation publicly. The most beautiful part? Tom Brenner found out that Kayla had taken him back to court for child support. Brandon was going to be on the hook for 18 years of payments, starting immediately. The baby, a daughter, was born in September. He named her Sophia. I went to the courthouse for the final hearing. I sat in the gallery while Brandon signed the papers that dissolved what was left of our engagement. He looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in 3 months. His lawyer kept whispering things in his ear, but he wasn't listening. He was looking at me. I didn't look back. The day I moved into my apartment, a 1-bedroom in Clarendon, nothing fancy, but mine, Jennifer brought champagne, and we sat on the floor of my empty living room and drank directly from the bottle like we were 22 again. You know what's crazy? She said. Your mom saved you from a dream. I don't believe in ghosts, I said. You should, Jennifer said, because she's real, and she was watching out for you. I keep the folder in a box under my bed. Sometimes I take it out and look at the photographs, just to remind myself that my instinct was right, that the dream was real, that I listened. I'm 33 now. I have a new apartment, a promotion at work. I'm the creative director at a larger firm, 110,000 a year, and I've been dating someone named Michael for 6 months. He's a teacher. He makes half what I make. He remembers my coffee order without me telling him. He doesn't have a trust fund or a hidden phone folder or another family. Last week, he asked if I wanted to get married eventually. I said I needed to think about it. And I do need to think about it because marriage now feels like a choice I'm making, not an inevitability I'm sliding into. It feels like something I have to be absolutely certain about, something I have to choose with both eyes open and both feet on the ground. 3 years after that day in my childhood bedroom, I still think about the dream. I think about my mother's face in the mirror. I think about how she showed up exactly when I needed her most, without saying a word. Some people might call that coincidence. Some might call it intuition. Some might call it a mother's love, reaching across the boundary between living and dead to save her daughter one last time. I call it grace. I call it the moment I learned to trust myself, even when the truth was terrifying. I call it the day my mother gave me my life back, one final time.